Jason, what's up, brother? Hey, man, thanks for coming on the show.
Good morning, sir. Appreciate you having me here.
Yeah, dude. So, man, from the very first moment that I met you, it was at the High Power Fitness Festival, and I had no clue. You know, I got up there and I'm like sharing with the audience and sharing a message, and I come off the stage and I see this dude with this beard, just like with a big smile waiting on me, and I'm like, who is this guy? You know, I'd seen you out in the audience, right? And then from that moment, like, we just started talking, and you're sharing, and like I'm hearing, you know, all of the different things that you've got going on, a lot of your accomplishments, and I didn't know it at that moment, but I had like an inkling, like, just this Jason guy is somebody who, like, I want to get connected to.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You know, first off, shout out to Colton Foltz.
Yeah.
He was the one that invited me out to that event and said, dude, you got to meet Chase. He's a great guy. And, just like you, I was listening to you while you were on the stage, and I was like, man, this guy, he's living it. You know, you understand that it's a mental thing. You know, it's a mindset thing. And once you get your mindset to that certain place, you can accomplish anything in life.
Yeah.
And my story is pretty good about accomplishing anything in life, you know?
Yeah, so let's dive into that. Like, tell us, like give us the snapshot story, you know, just kind of like where you were, how you kind of went through it, and where you are now.
You know, I got divorced a couple years ago, and that really, it put me in a downward spiral. Started drinking a lot, started drugging again, you know, and addiction is a terrible thing, and once it gets a hold of you, it's very hard to get out of. And I had some issues with my probation officer. You know, she didn't like me drinking, she didn't like me drugging, and in the back of my mind, I knew I needed help. But pride for a man to step forward and ask for help is one of the hardest things. And to me, pride is one of the worst sins out there, because it can keep you from getting the right people into your life and accomplishing a lot of goals that you can accomplish. But like I said, in the back of my head, I knew I needed help, but I also kept thinking, well, if I keep screwing up, then probation's going to give me all the help I need. And they did, man. They locked me up for 6 months. And when you're in that cell, there's so much uncertainty in your life. You know, at that time, I didn't know if I was going to go to state jail, if I was going to even be able to do anything again in life, you know.
Right. So when is this? Like, what year is this?
This was at the end of 2021, leading into 2022. And I got sober before I went to jail, a couple weeks before I went in, but they didn't care at that point. You know, I'd messed up too much, and I knew it. I hold myself very accountable for what had happened. You know, the probation officers, they're just doing their job. It's our job as the people that messed up in life to get right and act right and walk that straight line, and I didn't, you know. But my probation officer arrested me that day was probably the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of people that can say going to jail was the best thing that ever happened to them, but it was. And it led up to a day in my life that I'll never forget, and that was January 4th of 2022. And I walked out of jail, out of the Bowie County Annex. And when I came out, you know, I had $26, a phone that didn't work, and half a pack of cigarettes. And that was it, the clothes on my back. Didn't have any communication while I was in, so I didn't know what was going on with my kids. I didn't know what was going on with family. You know, it was a tough time. And when I came out, there was nobody there waiting on me. There was nobody there to pick me up and hug my neck and tell me they love me or anything, man. And I walked down those steps and I said, well, it's time to get some good food. So I went to Hopkins Ice House, got me some tacos. It was Taco Tuesday, half price tacos. So now I got like $14 left, you know, and I called a friend of mine, and I won't mention her name, but she's an amazing person. She knows who she is. And she came and picked me up and said, where are we going? I said, I have no idea. I don't know. I'm homeless. I've lost everything. In that 6 months, I'd lost everything. And I reached out to a buddy of mine. He's like, man, I got a couch you can sleep on. And after the first night, I knew that I wasn't done. That I had so much more coming to me than just a couch to sleep on. And so I just started grinding. You know, I started looking for a little bit of work just to put some money in my pocket. And it led to me getting my phone turned back on, you know, which led to a message from a former customer about a house that they had that they needed work on. And of course, that was 2 months earlier when they had messaged me and I was in jail. But I reached out and I said, hey, what do you need? And they're like, where have you been? And I'm like, I was locked up. I'm not going to lie about it. And he says, well, my house is empty. My renters moved out. I need it taken care of. And I said, well, it just so happens that I need a place to live. And, that's the thing. I'm going to give shout outs multiple times. I may not mention names, but this guy, he understood what I'd been through, but also understood what I could do in life at this point. And he said, move in. And I'm like, man, I don't have money. He said, no. He said, Butler, move in. And a couple days later, he called me and he had the power turned on for me. The water was on, the gas was on. It was ready. I didn't have nothing. I slept on blankets and dirty clothes for about a week before people started realizing what was going on. And, I swallowed that pride and started asking for a little help. And, I kept going to my meetings. I kept doing the things I was supposed to do probation-wise for a few months. And then one day, man, I got up and I looked and I was sleeping on a full-size bed. I had a house full of furniture.
Yeah.
And I had food in my refrigerator. And I had started building back a relationship with my kids that I'd lost. Because when you're, and I hate to say well-known, but in the Hooks area, I'm pretty well-known. I've lived there a long time. And you receive that message from your kid that you're an embarrassment, that they don't even want to be your kid anymore. Dude, there's nothing more in this life that will motivate you than hearing those words from your kid. And so I hit the ground running, man. I didn't look back. I built the construction business back up. I started doing events again that I'd been doing for a long time. I'd been a part of a lot of music events, just raising money for people in need. And it took off. I mean, it really took off. And I pushed and pushed and pushed. And I started Recovery Road Productions. I've put on 2 of the biggest music events that Texarkana's had in a while this year, the Battle of the Bands and the Twin City Music Festival. I've been a part of 15 events this year that I've either put together, emceed, or just helped out in any way I could. And man, at this point, we've raised a little over $71,000 this year for local nonprofits and individuals in need in our area.
Yeah.
It goes back into our community, and that's what it's all about to me, and I'm not done, and that's the thing I tell myself every day, I'm not done. And the thing is, there's been so much from January 4th of 2022 to us sitting here right now that, man, could have broke my sobriety, and that's the thing. I'm going to keep going back to that sobriety, because without it, I wouldn't have anything that I have now. It's one of those things that God gives you everything you need before you know you need it.
Yeah.
And he knew I needed to get sober. I will get a little emotional. You have to, there's a lot of stuff, man. In August of last year, my ex-wife was killed in a car wreck. So I went from part-time dad to full-time dad in an instant.
Right.
And it goes back to God giving me my sobriety. Because without it, where would my kids been? What would they have been coming to? And it's tough, even though she was my ex-wife, we were together for 15 years. We have children together. I don't care who you are. You still have love for that person. And, the tough part is we had just really started co-parenting again, and that was nothing on her part. It was on me. I was the one that screwed a lot of things up in life. And, man, I'm going to tell you, every day I drop my kids off and I look to the sky and I tell her I got this, And I know she's looking down knowing I do. And, every day I get up with a mission to accomplish my goals for the day. And until you get that reality of you're not promised tomorrow, you don't understand how long-term goals are they're kind of obsolete, in a way. And so I started setting 5 daily goals. and I go to accomplish those daily goals every day.
That's good.
And I've also learned that it's okay if I don't accomplish those 5 daily goals. And at the end of the day, I reflect on the goals that I did accomplish instead of the ones that I didn't. So I can go to bed with a feeling of accomplishment for the day and wake up the next morning feeling accomplished. And my main thing is the next day, I don't chase those goals that I didn't accomplish the day before. I set 5 new ones.
Yeah, that's good.
And, I keep taking steps forward. A statement I tell a lot of the people that, that I talk to and that reach out to me for inspiration and stuff like that is stop carrying the mountain. We're meant to climb it. And
good. Every
day that you leave that feeling that you didn't accomplish something, you're just adding to that mountain that we're already carrying, And at some point you have to realize it's time to start taking it off your back, setting it to the side, and start climbing without all that extra weight on you. And it's tough. It's a mindset that takes a long time to develop, man. But, you and I both know we wake up every morning blessed to wake up.
Yeah.
So I don't wake up in a bad mood. I don't wake up going, oh, I dread this day. I wake up to live life every day.
Yeah. Man, that's awesome. And your story is, this is the first time I'm really hearing it in full. And there's just so much there. And I know through this little sneak peek into who Jason is, there's so many different other stories and tangents and little things that we could riff off of. But somebody who's listening to this, or somebody who may be an outsider looking in, is looking at you and they're going, man, how can I make that happen for me? Getting out of that situation and having absolutely nothing, feeling like you're at the absolute rock bottom. And really what it is, it's like you said, you're seeing this mountain and it's like, how do I ever take this massive thing on? How do I even do it? And you're like, stop looking at the mountain and look at the steps in front of you.
That's it.
And that can be such a hard thing, and it prevents people from actually start taking that step or even slipping back into those old patterns and stuff like that. And so the big thing that really kind of stuck out to me with your story is your ability to, be aware and cognizant of the mountain ahead, but keeping your head down and working on the steps every single day. Just focusing on today. Don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about next week. Don't worry about, all of this different stuff. And like I said, we could dig into man, you're walking through this and you're navigating this new life, and literally building things back up. And now it's like you said, you woke up one day and it's like, man, you got a king size bed and you're doing events and stuff like that. And it's like, that should be inspiring, because here's the thing is it probably in the moment felt like this is taking eternity. Am I going to live like this forever? Especially those first few weeks. But dude, 2022 was not that long ago.
It was not,
man. We're still in 2023. And so that's just crazy. And that should be an inspiring message for anybody listening to this, whether it is getting sober or it's starting a business or anything, that it's closer than you think, but you have to stop looking at the mountain and focus on the day to day. And that's
right.
honestly something for me too.
Yeah, absolutely. It really comes down to, again, fighting that pride that's inside you. And being able to say, hey, Chase, I need a hand with this. Can you help me with this? You can't take on that mountain by yourself sometimes, and that's the thing, is surrounding yourself with the right people, the right tribe, as I call it, to support you. It's crazy. I'm not going to say I'm well established in the music industry, because I am not a musician. And that is a hard family to get into. But, once I started promoting music and promoting the local musicians, man, they welcomed me in like family. But in that came alcoholism.
Yeah.
Because I was going to the shows, I was drinking, I was the thing, the whole 9 yards. And now, man, some of my biggest supporters in my sobriety are the people that I used to drink with the most.
Yeah.
And all of our events are music based. So out of that alcoholism, out of that rough patch in my life, came the blessings that I'm able to do now.
Man, that's good.
And I have such a great family in the musicians. I love them all. I try to promote their shows. I try to get them gigs, you know. But in that also, dude, they step up for me every time.
Yeah.
If we have an event that's non-paying, they volunteer. You know, they come out in droves. You know, and this is a perfect example. I put up a post about, in a big music group that I have, about an event that I wanted to do on a Sunday. And I had 5 slots. 15 musicians messaged me. And I literally had to tell them no.
Yeah.
I've got it filled. And it takes 10 to 15 minutes to fill that. The Twin City Music Festival, which we had 8 bands and Chad Prather, and we raised money for the Texarkana Literacy Council. It took me an hour to fill 8 slots of music, you know. And dude, I'm blessed in that they themselves want to give back to the community as much as I want to. They've bought into what I'm selling.
Yeah.
And honestly, without them, I couldn't accomplish the things that I'm accomplishing. And they're my tribe. You know, that's my family and my tribe. And I love every one of them. I could give shout outs all day long to musicians and still probably wouldn't get them all.
Yeah, I mean, when I heard your story, you were talking about, you know, what came to mind was your circle of influence, because you had these people who you reached out, you asked for help, and they were able to lift you up, and that's what helped you kind of help piece this thing together. But what's interesting about you relying on this circle of influence is now you are in a position of influence to where now, you know, you're going into places where, you know, there's drugs and there's alcohol, and you are being a light of sobriety, of like a different way to live, and you're going and you're still having a great time, and you're enjoying yourself and stuff like that, and people are looking to you and they're seeing there's a different way. Like, they don't have to, you know, do all of that, and, you know, we don't have to, you know, talk down on any of that stuff, but however, when it's a problem, it's a problem. You know what I mean?
That's right. You know, we have a tendency to want to hide from our problems. Addiction is one of the biggest things that helps us hide, you know. And I have a guy that I sponsor. I have several actually that I sponsor, but there was one, and he had relapsed. And I felt really bad, you know, because I felt like I wasn't doing my part, that I wasn't there for him. But I am no softy when it comes to stuff like that, man. I don't sugarcoat anything. And I asked him, you know, have you started drinking again? And he's like, you already know the answer. And I said, no, you're going to tell me. I said, you're going to admit that you made a mistake. You're going to hold yourself accountable for it. And he wouldn't tell me. And I finally told him, I said, so you've been drinking again? And he's like, yeah, I have. And I said, you're a coward. And he got mad.
Yeah.
And he says, you have no right to call me that. I said, yes, I do, because I was one too. And I said, you're using alcohol to hide from real world problems, and that makes you a coward. And it's tough love, you know, but it's that toughness that a lot of us need. And I have a story that I'll tell you real quick about my sponsor. He's a great dude. And I got pretty down earlier this year, and, you know, I was struggling, you know, and you have those moments where you really struggle. And I called him, and he said, I'm on my way. And I was like, damn, you know, I don't want him at my house. You know, just talk.
So did you even say anything to him?
No,
He just like...
no, he knew when I called, because I never call. You know, he'll text message me every once in a while, and that's it. I never call. And he's like, I'm on my way. And there was a little bit more conversation to that, but we'll leave out all the cuss words and all that. And I'm like, dang, man, I don't want him at my house. You know, I don't want to be preached at today. You know, and sometimes you need it. And I heard him knock on the door, man, and I get up and I open the door, and he's standing there, and excuse my language to anybody that's listening, but he says, Butler, quit being a little bitch. And he went and got back in his truck, and I'm just like, all right, that's what I needed today, you know? I mean, I'm good now, I'm solid. But dude, with sobriety, it comes down to making the choice to change your life, you know, and that's where I got to.
Yeah.
Sleeping on that iron cot. You know, I was like, man, I didn't know if I was going to be in jail for 2 years or not. And the bad thing about our jail system is there's just as many drugs in there as there are on the streets sometimes, you know, but I stayed my course.
Yeah.
You know, I made the choice to change my life, and that's what I tell everybody. It comes down to you making that choice. And for me, there were 3 steps to it, and it's not 12 steps. Nothing against AA and the 12-step program, but I had my own 3 steps, and number 1 was making my circle so small I was the only one standing in it. And that's a tough one, man, because you're going to cut off friends, you're going to cut off family. I had to distance myself from my kids, and it all comes according with step number 2, and that is becoming selfish for the first time in my life. And everybody says, here's the word selfish, and they're like, oh, you can't do that. Yes, you can. When you're having to do something for yourself, I didn't get sober for my kids. I didn't get sober for my family. I didn't get sober for my job or my friends. I got sober for me.
Yeah.
And that's the person I have to face every morning in the mirror is myself. And now I'm at that point I can tell myself when I'm looking in the mirror every morning, I'm proud of you. I don't have to have that pat on the back from somebody else because I can tell myself that because I got selfish in my sobriety. And the 3rd step is tough also, man. It's understanding when you can open that circle back up and you can allow those everyday things that come with issues, that come with problems, that come with stress back into your life, and you can handle it without having to jump back off the wagon and go to the store and buy that beer or smoke the joint or whatever it is,
Right.
Those 3 steps is what kept me going.
Man, that's so good. And it's like you said, people have this like negative connotation to being selfish, but there's something about short-term selfishness for long-term selflessness,
Yes.
And if you can be selfish for a short amount of time to get your mind, your heart, your body in a position to where you can actually serve and pour into others or whatever it may be, then you need to be selfish for a season, And that's exactly what you did, because like you said, when you open that influence back up or open that circle back up, you want to be able to be the one impacting rather than being impacted.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're going to get those opportunities, especially like with me, I'm a pretty social person. I'm a social butterfly, as they say. I talk to everybody. I meet everybody. I went through the drug court program, which is the absolute toughest program in Bowie County. It is succeed or go to jail.
Wow.
That's it. And after I graduated drug court, the officer that runs drug court reached out to me and said, hey, we're going to start a peer group. We want you to run the peer group. And I'm like, man, that made me feel great.
Yeah.
That let me know that the belief I have in myself has been passed on to someone else.
Yeah.
That they believe in what I'm doing and how I'm getting there. So for a while I ran the peer group. I go as often as I can now. I told them one of the big things was letting other people run it as well. Well, when you take on a peer group like that, you are carrying more problems than you know.
Yes.
Because you are there for those people as well. And, for about 2 months, I was pretty solid. And then I told them, I said, I need a break for a while, and so I go back. I went back this past Tuesday. And what's crazy, man? With addiction, it's a never-ending battle. And I'm gonna tell you something that only 2 other people know, all right? And I am 933 days sober, all right? Alcohol and drug-free for 933 days. And after peer group the other day, I caught myself in a liquor store parking lot. Sitting there staring at the front door, and I'm just like, man. And what scared me the most, I drove there with intention, with no second thought. I mean, I left the place that I was locked up at for 6 months and drove to that spot. And I sat there for about 15 minutes and I remembered this is not who I am. I am not this person anymore.
Yeah.
Opening that door is the steps back that I avoid. I had a preacher tell me a couple years ago, he said, it doesn't matter how big the steps forward you take, whether they're 2-mile steps or 2-inch steps, but we're taking steps forward, not backwards. And man, it was very easy to drive off from that parking lot, but it's the whole process of having to reset my mindset.
Yep.
To get back to knowing that is not who I am.
Yeah, and I'll even say it's probably even at this point for you to be in that parking lot, and what you said that stuck out to me was essentially what you said was, I am not this person anymore. And what that means is I do not identify as the kind of person who would go in here. And that comes down to your belief system. So now it's deeper than mindset. Now it's a spiritual component of yourself where, no, my belief in myself is that I'm above this, that I'm greater than this, that's not my character, that's not my, and you've got too much riding on the line.
Oh, absolutely. Way too much. You know, and the thing about it, the temptation is always there.
Yeah.
Especially alcohol-based. There's not a store in this town that you walk into that doesn't sell alcohol anymore.
Right.
But it all literally goes back to that choice to change your life.
Yeah.
You know, I can go to Walmart and there's a beer and wine aisle. But I make the choice that if I walk down that aisle, I'm not getting anything off that shelf.
Yep.
Just like if I go to Easy Mart, there's a beer and wine section. I make the choice to go grab a Red Bull or grab me a Coca-Cola or whatever. Sorry for the endorsement shout out, but maybe they'll send us some money. You know, but that's all what it comes down to is the choice I made. And, you know, I had a friend of mine, she messaged me yesterday, one of my sisters. I have about 27 sisters that keep tabs on me and check on me, and I do the same for them. I love them all. And she said, how's it going? And I said, I'm making it. She said, no, not really, how's it going? And I said, what you mean, you know? And she said, oh, I can see the struggle. She said, I can read between the lines. She said, I've known you long enough, I can read between the lines. And I'm like, no, I'm good, you know? And then I remembered, this is someone reaching out to me for me to vent to, for me to unload my things. And she was the first one I told that I was in that alcohol, you know, in the liquor store parking lot. And her response was, there it is. And I'm like, yeah, you know me, you know? And she said, remember, that is not who we are. And I want to congratulate her on her sobriety right now. She's going through it as well. But it's those amazing people that you surround yourself with, that amazing tribe that will allow you to move forward in life and break the patterns that you've created.
Yeah, man, that's good. I don't know if you've got to be familiar with this story, and it was about one of the Spanish conquistadors who came over, right, and they're going to dominate this new land, and I forget the person's name and where exactly they were, but they come on, and as soon as they get there, they're met with all of these people who are going to like storm them and basically fight them, you know. And so what they do is they step off the boats, and the leader, he sets the boats on fire as a sign to the other men that, hey, we're not going back. It's either we fight right now and we dominate, or we're going to die here. And that's ultimately, you know, I see this for myself with, you know, kind of like my business and stuff like that. It's like I looked up one day and I was like, man, like I originally got into personal training because I needed some spare cash to kind of get me from one thing to the next. I was like, now I got a gym, I got like a rent, you know, I'm stuck in a lease, and I was like, man, there's no turning back. Like, I'm in this, and that's exactly your case too.
The statement I use is, I didn't come this far to only come this far.
Yes.
You know, and that burning the boats, that's what that is. We didn't pull up here just to look. We pulled up here to win,
to dominate,
to take over.
Yeah.
You know, and that's my mindset for every day. I didn't come to this point to say, okay, I've done enough.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to be complacent in what I've done. I'm not going to settle for what I've accomplished so far. Yeah, I feel pretty accomplished in a lot of things, and a lot of people tell me, oh, you're doing great, you're amazing, you're doing great. Bro, I ain't showing y'all nothing yet.
Yeah, right. And that is...
Give me another year.
Yes, that's the way, I envision you continuing to do this. Because, anybody who's following you, they're going to see these motivational posts and these, inspirational little bits. And it's very easy for somebody who knows your past to be like, what is Butler doing? You know, come on, Jason, I know you. But don't stop, because one day they're going to see one of these posts that you do, and they're going to say, I'm calling him. You know, you continuing to ride this path, that you have this new identity, and it goes deeper than even just a simple mindset that you have, that it's now a belief system that you have. You know, when we talk about belief, it comes down to our how we identify ourselves, you know. And when you said, I'm not going to step in that place because I no longer that's not who I am anymore. Now it's an identity. It's a belief which is deeper than mental, in my personal opinion. And then from there, it allows you to you're just in a position now where like your internal belief system is going to carry you forward.
And that's what I was telling you. I didn't come this far to only come this far.
Yes.
It's a journey that I'm on. We all know our destination in life. We know where we're going to end up at. Yep. We don't know that final destination of heaven or hell, but we know that death is the destination. That's it. Right. We are born to die. So you might as well start living.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at. I'm actually living life for a change. I went a long time, and I told this in the peer group the other day that, I was married, I had kids, I volunteered in my community, I put on help with events then, but it was a shell.
Yeah.
The inside was empty.
Right.
Because the drugs and alcohol were still there, controlling the inside of everything. The outside was beautiful, perfect family that, was a part of everything. I was a little league coach. I did all these different things and everything, but the inside of that was empty.
Right.
It's that statement of what goes on behind closed doors you don't know.
Yeah.
Well, we take that as ourselves. Look at yourself as that what's on the other side of that door, and that's where the change came. I opened up that door and said, everything in here has to go.
Yeah.
And we're going to replace it with new stuff and start over again. And my sobriety is what opened that door, and for the first time in my 47 years of living, I'm actually living life.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to sit here and tell anybody I wasn't happy during those times. Yes, I was happy. But that happiness only went so deep.
Yeah.
It didn't make it to the core, and now my core, I emptied it out. And that's where my happiness starts, is in the core, and I let it exude out over everything else from there. It's a mindset, and this. Of all people, it is a mindset. To hit the gym every day, to work out, to eat right, to eat healthy, all of that's a mindset. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you I do any of that stuff. I pig out on junk food. I rarely exercise, but as far as my mental well-being, I'm in a better place in my life than I ever have been.
Yeah. And it reads, people can see that. One thing that we are kind of getting into is when people look at your social media posts, if you follow Jason, then you're going to be impacted. You're going to be inspired. The things that he's sharing, it encourages you, no matter who you are. And then what you were kind of telling me was, we had this moment at Universal Vibe, and I'm like, man, I just want to let you know that the posts that you're doing, man, they're hitting me. Like, I'm out here, I'm supposed to be inspiring people. I was like, man, I'm being impacted by your stuff. He's like, well, guess what? It's not for you.
It's not for you. That's for me. It's a reminder. I made one this morning about challenges and struggles. And that was from my challenges and my own struggles that I see. I hope it does reach someone. I hope they are inspired by it. But again, it's for me.
Yeah.
I have to inspire myself sometimes, and that's something that a lot of us forget, that our main inspiration should come from inside our own selves, and start with that, and then build off of it. I had my girlfriend, she sent me something the other day. It said, warning, if you hang out with me for too long, I'll brainwash you into believing in believing in yourself and thinking you can achieve anything. And she said, that fits you to a T. And I'm like, well, I wake up every day blessed, and I try to tell everybody that. Why are we so worried about everything that's coming when you actually get to start a brand new life every day?
Yeah.
If you weren't happy with the way yesterday turned out, guess what? You slept, you woke up, you can change your whole life in one day. In one day.
Yes, you can.
I tell everybody in the fundraising business that I am in, when I say business, I don't make any dadgum money. But, maybe eventually I'll put $1 or $2 in my pocket here and there. But 10,000 no's mean nothing. One yes can change someone's life.
Man, that's good.
And I have a story on that I'll share real quick. This was many, many years ago. And someone had reached out to me about a family. Their house had burned, and it was like 4 days after Christmas. which is absolutely the hardest time of the year to get money donated, to raise money, to do anything, because everybody's broke. They done spent their money on Christmas. They're worried about even the next bills. Man, I made phone call after phone call after phone call. Probably 200 or 300 calls, trying to call everybody, and might have raised $200, and I'm feeling defeated. And I was like, well, at the time I'm going through my Rolodex, because we didn't have all this information right there in our palm of our hands at all times. I was like, man, I ain't talked to him in a couple of years. Let me call him. I'm not going to mention any names. I'm not going to put anybody's business out there. And he said, yeah, Butler, man, it's been a while. Come have lunch with me. I'm like, yeah, all right. I wasn't working that day. I was like, I'll go have lunch with him. So as soon as I get there, he hands me an envelope. And he says, here's my donation. I'm like, okay, I just put the envelope in my pocket. I don't look, I'm not worried about what he did. I'm just there to have lunch with my buddy that I ain't even seen in 3 or 4 years. And we sat down, we had lunch, man. We had a good time. He's like, oh, I gotta get back to work. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go home. I went home, I took a nap. Didn't even think about it. I'm stress-free at this point. I wake up from a nap and I'm like, man, I need to do something. I got to get on this for this family, And I walked over to my shirt and I pulled out that envelope and he wrote a $10,000 check.
Holy smokes.
And I was like, man, that is the ultimate 1,000. 10,000 no's mean nothing.
Yeah.
One yes can change someone's life. And man, I put that to everything I do.
Yes.
Every job that I go to, every show that someone tells me I can't do, every time that I want to put on an event, I'm going to hear no.
Yeah.
But eventually I'm going to get my yes. And once I get that yes, it is on. Yeah. Let me go. Let me run.
So I don't know if you tuned into the episode that I did with Colton, but we had this exact conversation. And I asked him, I was like, so man, I'm talking about from my own experience, not just with, the nonprofit, but in my own business, reaching out to people. Hey, you want to train? No. Hey, you want to work out? No. Hey, you want to sweat? No. So many no's, right? And I asked Colton, I said, hey man, how many no's did you have to get to your first yes for the first Universal Vibe? He was like, not very many, bro. I was like,
it doesn't work like that for everybody, Colton. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, and he just he had this vision and he had the belief and the passion for it, and he went to the right people and stuff. But no, I do love that, and it is something that whether you're in sales, whether you are just you're in the fundraising business, or you are just simply out here just trying to encourage somebody on social media. Yeah. Keep doing those posts, right. Because every, it may feel like this is the 10,000th one. You might impact one person who really needed it.
I look at it as we pretty much get told no from about the age of 2, and on up. One more time's not going to kill you. So I'm going to ask, as the younger generation says, shoot your shot.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to, man. And, I've been kind of doing the fundraiser thing with musicians off and on for about 12 years. I'm more behind the scenes than I am now. Definitely more behind the scenes, where I used to tell them, don't even say my name on stage. Don't any of that. I don't even want people to know. It was but man, I never thought it would lead to 2 music festivals in a row. A Battle of the Bands that had close to, probably about 4,000 to 5,000 people come through it that day.
Crazy.
And the fun of it all, it's not just about fundraising. I love the fundraising part, man, but the fun we're having right now with Recover Road Productions is crazy, man. And we've got stuff coming up, dude, that you are not going to believe.
Well, let's get into that if you don't mind. Can we have a little sneak preview into some of the stuff?
A couple little sneak previews. I don't want to. A lot of stuff is still in the works.
Yeah, well, give us a taste.
And that's the hard part. Okay, so we will do Battle of the Bands again next year. But the way we're going to do it, we're not going to do a one-day event for Battle of the Bands. It's going to involve 10 bands again, but we're going to spread it out over 3 events. The first event will have 5 bands. The top 2 bands will advance to the finals, and then we will have a second event. And the top 2 bands out of those 5 will advance to the finals. And then we will have our returning champions, Birds of a Feather, love y'all. They will come back for the finals. They get an automatic bye to the finals, where we will have 5 bands in competition again. You know, of course, everything that I do, I kind of bounce it off the musicians. You know, I've got several that I have huge respect for, you know, and want their opinions on what I'm doing. Because, like I said, I'm a carpenter from Sims, Texas. I never thought I would be in the promotion business or event planning business. And they love the idea. But what I love about it is now I get 3 events instead of 1. So that gives me 3 opportunities to raise money for 3 different nonprofits.
Yeah.
Which gets more people involved. You know, our goal with Recovery Road Productions is to bring this community back together.
Yeah.
You know, at some point we've kind of lost that tribe feeling in this area, and a lot of the amazing people are kind of overshadowed by some of the bad things that happen in town. And man, you can come to our events and see how many amazing people are still out there because they donate, they show up, they promote the events with us. So Battle of the Bands is coming again for next year. Like I said, it'll be 3 events. Our big one that we're working on, and I'm going to give you this because I was in an event last Sunday that I emceed and kind of helped put together for a band out of Longview. And man, I couldn't hold it back, and I just kind of let everybody know what we was doing. But I'll tell you what we're working on. We are working on a 3-day music festival.
Wow.
For this area that will most likely have around 30 bands. We're going to shoot for over 100 vendors, probably 10 to 15 food trucks over a 3-day period. Labor Day weekend of next year is what we're looking for. I have a huge group message going with musicians that I've had for about 3 years now that's just grown. I think there's probably 120, 130 different musicians in this group message. And that's where I go to, to ask them to come play this, or if I'm doing Battle of the Bands or any of that stuff, I go immediately to the group message. Or if I know there's an opening at this venue, I go to the group message and say, hey, if you want this gig, you call them, and they jump on it. And I hope that it helps some of them. But I posted in the group message about 2 weeks ago that was my idea, and that's what we're working on. I think we had 22 sign up in the first hour, saying,
And
hey.
how many are you working towards having?
30.
Oh my gosh.
I've got 27 now, so I only need 3 more bands. So if you haven't talked to me about the big music festival, go ahead and reach out to me. But yeah, there's one coming out of Austin, a couple coming out of Dallas, and what's crazy, man, we're interested, we're in, we want to do it, we can't wait, and we never even talked about who's getting paid what, how long they're going to play, what day they're going to play, and to me that's a reflection of the impact of the events we're doing.
Yeah.
The musicians see what I'm doing, they know I'm supporting them, and trying to really show the talent we have in this area it's just unbelievable, man.
Is.
It's crazy. And when I say this area, I don't just mean Texarkana, I mean Mount Pleasant, Longview, Tyler, anywhere in Northeast Texas. And I would put this area up against any town anywhere as far as talent goes. We are definitely not hurting for great musicians and talent in this area, and so that's something we're working on. I'm meeting actually Saturday with the Tough Cookie Foundation. We're going to do a little event for them March the 10th down at Hopkins Ice House to help them raise money. If you don't know about Tough Cookie Foundation, they deal with local cancer patients.
Yep.
I have a couple nonprofits that I do events for every year. The Texarkana Literacy Council, I've done an event for them the last 2 years. Domestic Violence Prevention Center, we've done an event for them the last 2 years. Those are kind of our bigger events. And a lot of times, man, I'm just scrolling Facebook and I'll see, oh, look, what do they do? Who is this and what do they do? And actually someone had told me about the Tough Cookie Foundation, and I looked them up, and they sent me a contact, and I called the lady, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to do an event for you. And, it's like, well, who are you? And I tell them, and they're like, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything but show up, And so I meet with her Saturday. I've already got the whole event planned. I mean, we've got location, we've got musicians already, we've got our time slot, we've got our goal, and I did one for Heritage Home Health and Hospice. I partnered with them. This has been 3 or 4 weeks ago now. It was before Thanksgiving. And Christy Minton is the one I called, which I used to work with her many years ago. And they had a video on Facebook. I just loved it. They did a kind of like a car karaoke, kind of a deal. And I was like, I love that energy, So I texted her and said, I love your energy. Let's do something together. And we had an event at Redbone, and she told me, she said, this was so easy. And I said, well, I've done this a few times now, And she said, what do you need me to do? And I said, gather silent auction items. I said, venue, music, sound, all of that, I'll take care of all of it. And that's what it was, man. And I think with their sponsors and what we raised that day, I think it was over $5,000. And man, that just, it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
And that's a great program. They have a Wishes Granted program for some of their patients, man. And that's where that money's going to go, is to help their patients have that final wish for some of them, to either get back with their family or just have a spa day or something, just something special.
Man, I love that you do that, and that's kind of, the heart of Recovery Road, because that was when we started High Powered, the nonprofit. That was our whole thing, is every time we hold an event, we want to highlight a local nonprofit, build them up, and bring awareness to them, and hopefully it aligns with our values and stuff like that. But to see you as a forerunner in that, and hearing that you're doing, how many did you say a year? Like 17?
We did 15 already this year. I got one more.
So 16 in a year.
16 in a year.
There's 12 months in a year. So, and I remember the kind of work that went into just the fitness festival. So, and this is not even talking about your full-time job. So, when we talk about driven by purpose, when we talk about on a mission, when we talk about having to have some goals every single day to try to check off, you embody it, dude. And it's something that I think anybody, no matter what your walk of life is, what your background or your history is, they can look at you and be inspired.
I told someone, I'm gonna take November off. I'm gonna take November and December off. And then I had 2 events in November, and I've got one in December, and then I'm like, I'm going to take January through March off, and I've already got March events scheduled, for the 1st of March. And sometimes, man, it's not always about the nonprofits. A lot of times there's individuals in need. It's kind of how me and Colton really got together. Colton's mom has cancer.
Yeah.
And I had talked to Colton. I went to Universal Live last year and really loved it. I was one of the volunteers and just loved the whole thing that Colton does. And I can't say Colton's name enough, man. Colton's an inspiration
he's
to
a big hit in the show.
And I seen on Facebook one day he had posted, that his mom had cancer. And I called him and I said, hey, we're going to do an event for your mom. And he's like, what? I said, I'm not asking you. I'm telling you, we're going to do an event for your mom. Let me put it together. And he's like, well, doesn't sound like I have a choice in the matter, so okay, I'm down. And I think we raised close to $2,000 that day. Had 5 or 6, maybe 7 musicians come out at Hopkins Ice House. Shout out to Hopkins, love y'all. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's what it is. I seen one today, and the hardest part that I have to remember is, Jason, you cannot help everybody.
Yeah.
And that is tough. It's because I want to help everybody. And I've seen one today. There was a lady, she'd lost her eye, to a medical condition or something like that. And they were doing a GoFundMe and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, I need to do, and I can't. I wish I could. But hey, if you're out there and you see this post, you see that post, hey, donate $5-10, whatever you can. There's always someone in need in our area. And you never know when that person in need could be you.
Yeah, man. You just saying all of this, it's got my wheels turning on things that I want to do with, with our nonprofit and our programs and stuff like that. And so, just so you know, this is going to have to turn into a second episode where we dive even deeper on this half of things. Knowing your story now and your background, now we can really talk about some tangibles that, not only I'm planning on walking away with, but anybody listening can use as well. So to kind of wrap this up, I want to ask, this is, the High Powered Podcast, and the whole concept there is becoming the greatest version of yourself, right? Becoming high powered in all areas of life, mind, body, and spirit. And so for anybody who's listening to this, if there was one takeaway, and maybe we've already shared it, if there was one takeaway that you could give them in order to live the high-powered life, what would that be?
Okay, so for me, it's of course, just make the choice to change your life, But I end every one of my events with the same statement, every one of them. If you surround yourself with amazing people, amazing things will happen. And that's what it takes. Surround yourself with the amazing people who are willing to push you, who are willing to tell you when you're wrong, who are willing to pick you up when you need to be picked up. And amazing things will happen in your life. Find that tribe. Find that group of people that are going to say, let's go.
Yeah.
And really that's what happened to me. I surrounded myself with a support group and a group of people that motivate me every day. And man, you know how I am. I am happy-go-lucky and try to be an inspiration to everybody. But I'm going to tell you, there's a tribe of people around me that are more inspirational than I've ever thought about being. And dude, they fuel me. They feed me. And they may not even realize it, who they are and that they're doing it, but that's what it comes down to. Surround yourself with amazing people and amazing things will happen.
Man, that's good. Man, I love it so much, and I know we could keep going. I have some stuff that I wrote down that we're not even going to have a chance to get to.
One more thing. Main thing. Don't carry the mountain.
Yeah.
Climb the mountain.
That's a great takeaway.
We are not meant to carry the mountain. We are meant to climb it. I believe that was Martin Luther King Jr. that said that.
That's good.
Man, that's my daily right there. I'm not going to carry the mountain today. I'm going to climb it.
Yeah, and going back to that whole analogy, when you're in that rock bottom moment and you're staring at this big thing, there's things above you. When you're looking at this big massive thing, all you see really is the rocks and the clunkiness, and like, where do you even start to try to climb up this thing? And it looks so difficult, right? But then when you start to look up, you see clouds. And you can't see past those clouds. My friend Matt Cornelius told me this. He said, but once you start climbing the mountain, the clouds actually start to evaporate and move to where you can start to see the mountaintop. That's and right. Then once you get to the mountaintop, right. You got this massive view. So once again, it's not about being intimidated by this big thing, that the whole thing can't even be revealed to you how big it actually is.
You say that. I love Matt. I know Matt too. Yeah. He's a great dude, man.
Yes, he is.
It's out there for you if you want it. Make the choice to change your life. If you're struggling with addiction, you need somebody to talk to, I implore, reach out.
Yeah.
There's somebody there to listen. I'll listen. I know you'll listen.
Yep.
If it's not me, there might be somebody else you can connect to, but it's there. Swallow your pride, reach out, make the choice to change your life. Just keep going. Like I said, we didn't come this far to just come this far.
Man, that's awesome. Man, let's wrap it up there, Jason. Incredible stuff today. So tell everybody who's listening where they can find you, how they can get in touch, if they want to follow your stuff, particularly on, I guess, Facebook, right? It's kind of where you're...
Most of my stuff is on Facebook, Jason Butler. You can look up my personal page. We also have a Recovery Road Productions page on Facebook and Instagram. The Instagram doesn't get as much love as the Facebook one does, but yeah, if you need that daily inspiration, I promise you, mine will be there for you. I'm going to post it every day for whoever needs it, including myself, including you. It's there. Just check me out. Send me a friend request. I don't turn them down. I don't care who you are. I'm going to accept it,
Yeah, and I don't care who you are either. Don't once again, swallow that pride, because we all need inspiration today. And it's inspiration isn't one of those things that you go to when you got to get motivated to go to the gym. It's like taking a shower. You need to be inspired every day. So I highly encourage you go check out Jason and his stuff, because not only has he got some great posts that he's doing, but he's got some awesome events coming up too. So, man, thanks again for coming on here, and we've got to do it again.
Hey, I appreciate you having me, man. Anytime, dude. I love this. This was fun. I don't get to sit down and do this very often. I think this, like I told you, it's only the second interview I've ever done. And but yeah, man, we got so much coming up that I didn't even get to talk about. It's crazy. So yeah, I appreciate you having me, though.
Well, you guys anticipate a part 2. We thank you for listening.